Oh, Charles, I should have gotten us some mission incompetent music, but CBS gets pissed off when we do that historically. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Jason. It's good to be back. I was down in Indonesia. I went and looked at properties out in a place called Sumbawa, which were outstanding. On the one hand, the prices are pennies on the dollar compared to competent, beautiful properties in America or elsewhere. But on the other hand, they're in Sumbawa, which is quite a ways away from any organized communities. I was in, I landed at the main airport and I had to be driven 4.5 hours up to my hotel on the beach. The good news is that the hotel was very nice. That's where we did the last show. But the bad news was that right behind me there's a gold mine, a natural gas plant, all kinds of industrial activity high up in the hills behind a beach resort. And of course, effluent from those activities washes downhill. And even though I had a chance to consider buying sprawling land in this beautiful area, I just don't think I'm going to do it. Instead, I think what I'm going to do is look hard at the Gili Islands, which are off Lombok, Lombok. And those are spelled. The one I like is actually, there's a resort you should put up there called Bask, Bask, which is on Gili Meno, Meno, and it's like a movie set. This resort, it's an unusual place where a very wealthy Australian financier has over many years put together a complex right on the water, which is amazingly set up with a beautiful pool behind it, a dining area. You can see the beautiful water there, and he has that's Bask right there, and he has various apartments you can buy, and then he rents out, each with a private pool. And it's generally speaking, and I'm not bragging, but I've been around the world to many, many beach resorts, and it's pretty tough to have high quality food right on the beach in a remote area like this. But this man has invested millions of dollars to create a state of the art complex. I guess you're not really seeing that's Gili Trawangan, I think, or Gili. That's the beach area. I'm not sure it's on Gili Meno, but you had before Bask, and there every room at Bask I think comes with your own private pool, and in an American hotel in California, let's say what's left of Los Angeles at the Bel Air Hotel, you'd be paying well over $1,000 a night for the Bask rooms with their own pool. Anyway,
is this not it, Charles?
That's not it. No, it's nearby. I think if you just put in Bask.
This says Bask Gili Meno right here.
That's it. There, the overview of it. But the stuff you're showing around it is elsewhere, I think, on Gili Meno, which is not that well populated. Yeah, then when you dive in, for some reason, that's not it. That's Gili Meno, but that's not Bask.
Weird.
Yeah, and you just stay with the overview. The biggest building there in the center is a place that has right there. If you just stay there, you see the pool, and behind the pool there's a dining area, and then in the basement level behind the pool there's a there's a discotheque that I've never been to at night, but I've been given a tour of it, which has these big aquarium cages. And when the disco is open, they have live models swimming in the aquarium cages underground. You can believe that.
Underwater, I would think.
It's quite something. But that area, to me, is already more has been invested. What I was looking at, actually, I saw one property, 125 acres on the beach, nothing but. There's a picture of Bask. You can see. It's a modern facility. Everything, and there's that he also paid for underneath in the water the picture of those statues. He buried a bunch of statues under the water, so people go out in front of in front of the place and scuba dive to look at these statues and look at the scene underwater. It's really it's quite spectacular. That's a better view of it.
Nice
I think
ruins.
I think that's the check-in area. I could be wrong, but yeah, there's the wine cellar. I mean, it's pretty special. And I think a room costs $300 a night,
What are
which
they
is
hanging fish for here?
I don't know. Oh, fresh fish and meat. No. This is, I mean, it's super high quality stuff. And one interesting thing is that the prices are not cheap, but they're less than you would pay for a standard meal in New York City at not a fancy restaurant, which is unlike the way these hotels tend to work around the world. When they get you to a place, I believe you spent your honeymoon at one place like that. They get you there, and a Coca-Cola is $15.
Yeah, the whole thing's a ripoff.
Not here. Not here. They don't do that to you.
Well, the library looks excellent, Charles. For people who maybe haven't been watching lately, you're in the Charles Ortel Presidential Library. Well, for some reason, there we go. The chat was falling behind. So, Charles, there's so much going on with stupid Joe Biden giving us his farewell speech and also basically taking credit for Donald Trump letting everybody around the world know he's going to drop the hammer down if they don't knock off all the nonsense before he gets back in the roost. So we've got this ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, and Joe Biden, I guess, thinks that's got something to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from my grandfather, who lived a long life. He died almost at 96. And at a young age, I think I was 14, I and my next brother down went out to Santa Barbara, where he had retired in 1954 or 5. We were there in 1970, 2 years after his wife died. And we spent much of the summer together in Santa Barbara, which I don't know if it still is, but back then in 1970 was a glorious place. And he would repeatedly take me aside and he'd say, Charles, as you start thinking about what you want to do in life, find something that you could do that is productive and contributes to the general welfare, where you can aspire to be truly excellent. And I think if Joe Biden had a similar grandfather, he probably said to Joe at a young age, listen, douche, you're always going to be a douche. So don't try to be anything other than a douche. Be a tool, find some rich people to pay you off, and we'll install you as President of the United States, because I'm a douche and you're the grandson of a douche. I mean, just listening to Biden, I mean, the man has, his mind left the body a long time ago. He is surrounded by sycophants, and that's spelled S-I-C-K, who refuse to tell him the truth. He's a bad puppet led by corrupt puppeteers. And history is going to mark this guy as the worst, not only the worst American president ever, but the worst leader at a time in history where America truly needed somebody to leap into the breach and protect our citizens and steer our country to a safe and growing place. This man has virtually destroyed the United States of America. Now, I also learned long ago, this is an annual report cover of the place I talk about. In 1986, this was the annual report with Dylan Reed. And what people there would say, in part thinking about the firm, was that it's very difficult to destroy an established franchise. You can harm it, but one of the reasons that companies have, quote, franchise values is that when you develop a franchise, even if you get a pair of more than a pair, a quadruplet of awful leaders in this moron Biden, in another moron Obama, George W. Bush, yet another moron, and Bill Clinton, a dangerous, corrupt moron. Even with all those years in the White House and all the teams that have been around those corrupt assholes, even with all that, the United States still has a pulse, thankfully. Its heart is still beating. And we see now in the confirmation hearings that the team that Donald Trump is assembling is truly a team of champions. Forget this idea of team of rivals. You want a team of champions who's going to jump into all these important positions and get us back on track. The idea that Joe Biden could think at this late date that anybody in the Middle East is listening to him or his advisors just is further confirmation that the man has no marbles left. He's an empty vessel, a corrupt, empty vessel. As he's crowing about this Gaza peace deal, that David Weiss, the special counsel on Hunter Biden, issued a blistering report castigating the president and his administration for daring to suggest that there were political motives in the prosecution and in the handling of the Hunter Biden mess. I mean, this man is a disgrace to the legal profession. He's a disgrace to his family and his ancestors. He's a disgrace to the office of the president, the office of vice president, the office of the Senator of the United States. And I hope historians do follow him. Somebody wrote a funny piece that nobody wants a Biden presidential library. That may be true. We don't necessarily need another crumbling edifice replete with bullshit. But the person who wrote that piece,
written in crayon.
The person who wrote that piece made some interesting points. He I think it was I believe, I'm not a biologist, but I believe it was a man. He said that the presidential library of Richard Nixon is actually quite interesting because it goes into gory detail on his failures into Watergate and other areas. I doubt, I may never go to the Clinton Foundation, but I doubt the Clinton Foundation or the Obama Foundation actually go into the controversies about those presidencies. In time, that will be the job of present and future historians. And that's why we do need all the presidential records of the Bidens. And they shouldn't be in a private institution pretending to be a public charity like the Clinton Foundation. They should be under the care and feeding of the National Archives themselves. And I don't think there are any rich people left who would want to part with the kind of money that you would need to part with to create a building to house the bullshit that Joe Biden created as president and as co-conspirator, vice president for Barack Obama. I doubt it.
I agree, Charles.
Not that I have any strong views on the matter.
You know, it's funny, that Richard Nixon library, do you remember? I went there.
Mm-hmm. I do. Your Belinda, is it?
Not my Belinda, somebody else's, but I went there. It's funny, I can't, I'll have to look for that video, but I do remember, I think it was closed. I went there on a road trip during the pandemic. Yeah, I should go back there. It would be an interesting road trip to go around the country to all of these different corrupt presidential libraries and see what's going on. I like this because they have a helicopter in the parking lot. That's at least interesting. I just walked around this parking lot and looked at the building.
You sure that's in California, or did you do that out in Long Island?
I don't know if there's a Richard Nixon presidential library in Long Island, but it's an interesting comment. I don't know where you got that from. I'm pretty sure it was right here in somebody else's Belinda, California.
There you go. Now, well, the question is, will there be anything left of California? I mean, the most recent estimate people are touting is that it may be $250 billion in damage in California. Think of it. That's less than we sent to Ukraine, but it's a massive amount of money. And happened under the watch. I mean, all I can think about, and I feel sorry, very sorry for the many people who have lost property and lives and been wounded. And certainly that part of Los Angeles will never be the same unless there is a clean sweep in Los Angeles and California and continued strengthening of support for the MAGA movement. This is a disaster that could have been avoided. Trump talked about it with Joe Rogan, if you remember, the threat of this happening, and it was entirely preventable. It looks like there's a measure of arson involved here. It wouldn't shock me if there is a terrorist element as well. I mean, it seems to me crystal clear that it's a lot easier to take some element of fire starter of some kind and set it to loose tinder in the wilderness. It's a lot easier to do that than it is to get behind enemy lines with a bomb in enemy territory. I mean, there's so many people. I haven't driven in California as you have, but I've driven extensively in Los Angeles, in the Los Angeles and Southern California area, and much of it's the center is dense, but in the outskirts where this brush is, and where the fires start, it's not that carefully watched. So it's a miracle to me that this hasn't happened sooner.
You don't think it would be easier to get 19 guys to fly airplanes and crash them?
Yeah,
no, but joking aside, it's not funny. You're right, Charles. I mean, there are now videos emerging of people just, setting dumpsters on fire, setting brush on fire, and you just have hairspray and a lighter or a can of gasoline. I mean, $20, somebody could have done all of this.
Yeah, and then the looters, and there's reports of foreign nationals putting on firefighters' clothes and organized teams of people, foreign people, showing up at homes that are either threatened by fire or have been under fire to go loot them. I mean, remember the COVID daily press conferences of the president? Yeah. I'd love to see a daily press conference by the Attorney General taking these, some collection of malooks, out of prison, parading them up and say, this is what we have not yet proven to the required standard, the guilt of these people. But here are the charges against each of these people. This person is allegedly, went into a husk of a home to loot it. This person raped a 71-year-old grandmother. This person did this. This person did that. All four of these people are in this country illegally, thanks to Joe Biden and Mayorkas and the Democrats in the Senate and the Democrats in the House and the Democrats in California. Do you share the view that these sorts of people should be allowed to come in willy-nilly into your country? If so, check yourself into the closest loony bin, because you're an idiot. I mean, this is just beyond stupid that Joe Biden and Merrick Garland would be stating that the number one priority in testimony, the number one priority of the Justice Department, the FBI, is to root out white extremists. This team sent FBI agents and others into school boards to figure out parents who were concerned about what was being taught in public schools, to attack them, to attack Catholics, to attack other mainstream Americans, and open up our border to have these people come and burn the place down. I mean, as Steve Bannon said, he said, I'm not a nice man. I want Old Testament justice here. I want retribution. And I share that view. These people,
fire and brimstone.
Right. Smite some people here, man. I mean, this is, these people, these are armchair douchebags back in Washington, D.C. in the main, rhinos and Democrats, who sit around in the comfort of their many mansions, going from expensive meal and conference to expensive meal, collecting their participation trophies and their speeches and their contributions to their campaigns and their charities, insulated for the most part from the crime that's accelerating around the country thanks to these assholes.
Charles, what about Steve Bannon now deciding that Elon Musk is an evil person? And yesterday or 2 days ago, he was saying that he's going to run him out of Trump's orbit. But then I think earlier today, he admitted that he's probably not going to be able to do that. Yeah, there we go. Musk not going to be totally out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should pick your battles. I mean, Steve has made enormous positive contributions in the course of his brief political career, brief and highly successful political career. History will mark him as one of the important people who brought Trump into the first presidency against great and long odds. But I think at certain times he makes bad decisions. I mean, he made a decision to take money from that crazy Chinese person of dubious origin, to take on the richest person in the world, who has come to America as a legal immigrant, and who started very modest means in really almost desperate conditions. This, you can say what you want about Musk, but in modern times, I don't know of anyone else who has created so many amazing companies. Maybe Thomas Edison is a model, but Thomas Edison famously, he's credited with creating General Electric, but actually his he did have a role in its early founding, but Electric went bankrupt in the beginning and then was rescued. So he wasn't.
Was fighting him, weren't they?
I don't know the early history in great detail, but I believe if you look it up, that Edison, yes, he had a hand in inventions that gave rise ultimately to General Electric, but the corporate form didn't do well under Edison, as often happens with great inventors. I mean, my father was an inventor and not really interested in business per se, in the minutiae of business, of managing. He was much more interested in inventing new things. And here's Musk, who is an inventor, but also, it would seem, a somewhat gifted manager. Now, are there flaws in Musk's background? I'm sure if we poke into them, I'm sure there might be. But did he play a monumental role in shifting the public view inside and outside America of Donald Trump? Yes, he did. Did he do that at a critical time after Trump was shot, after the first assassination attempt? Yes, he did. And I think, anyway, I think that Musk certainly has more resources than Steve Bannon. I hope that Musk is not an evil person. Who knows? When you have so many businesses operating in China and elsewhere, where you have investors' assets and your own assets at risk, who knows what compromises he's had to make. I know that Peter Schweitzer has written about Musk, suggesting that he's received subsidies that maybe he shouldn't have gotten, and favors that maybe he shouldn't have gotten. But on balance, at this moment, I'll forgive quite a lot. You contrast Elon Musk with George Soros. I mean, giving George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom alongside Hillary Shrew Clinton, I mean, that is just a debasement of that currency that is disgusting beyond belief. George Soros and Hillary Clinton, are you fucking kidding me? Giving them honors. I mean, what are these, the satanic awards?
Satanic verses. Remember Salman Rushdie? And then in Seinfeld, he was Sal Bass. Now, is Hillary Clinton eating Ozempic? She looks weird. They both look weird. They all look close to dead.
Yeah, well, I mean, the damage these have wrought. I mean, when you think about Joe Biden wouldn't be president today if Bill Clinton hadn't survived his impeachment. And Bill Clinton should have been convicted. I mean, if you had a real law school, and maybe, who knows, Musk or somebody else will set up a real law school that will pump out honest, passionate lawyers. But if you had a real law school, you would look at the case study of Bill Clinton as president. I mean, the United States, in spite of his presidency, flourished. I think it illustrates the power of demography. If you get into population flows from post-1945, the baby boom, what you see is that the whole population pyramid shifted temporarily under Bill Clinton and then briefly under George W. Bush to a place where the senior population declined relative to the active population, 25 to 55. And so there were a lot of people engaged in productive activity at a time where the U.S. had no actual rival economically or militarily from 1992 until about September 11th, 2001. The United States was literally on top of the world, and this douche, Clinton, was sticking cigars inside Monica Lewinsky while important business was supposed to have been conducted in the Middle East and elsewhere. And along the way, he managed with his powerful team of evil associates, especially including Hillary, to delay Paula Jones' Wreckoning past the 1996 election, ensuring that he would be reelected and serve. Then he used every dirty trick in the book to try to stop the Paula Jones lawsuit. His insurers ended up paying Paula Jones $850,000, I think, in 1998, which was a lot of money in 1998. It's a lot of money today, much more than the hush money case for Trump. So clearly, you don't pay somebody $850,000 for nothing, even if you're Elon Musk, but especially if you're Bill Clinton, who was technically financially bankrupt at that time in 1998. When you consider the pile of legal bills that he had for delaying the spectacles that he had to delay. And this man, as president of the United States, people are saying, is Pam Bondi going to be, as Attorney General, Donald Trump's personal law firm? I mean, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were their own law firm, subverting the Constitution. And Bill had the gall to lie to his cabinet, lie to the American people, and most importantly, lie under oath through this whole process. And he wasn't penalized harshly enough. So Joe Biden saw that, Washington, D.C. saw that, the world saw that, and the political class said, you know what? We can say whatever we want. When our FBI goes after you, you can't lie to the FBI or you go to jail for a long time.
He wasn't penalized, Charles. Sorry to interrupt, but we do have to make our way over to the First Amendment Forum.
Sure.
People can join us there on odyssey.com/@crowdsource the truth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, or subscribestar.com, or patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. We're going to talk more about Bill Clinton not getting penalized. Monica Lewinsky did, however. Anyway, we'll be right back. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody.